Hi everyone, what's up? Welcome to our Summer Championship action today, which is going to be pretty much cut down from what we were originally expecting to have due to another forfeit in the tournament. This tournament is seemingly just plagued by them, so unfortunately today, Parting cannot play, so we'll just have 3 players playing this double elim bracket, which kind of makes no sense, but I asked like 2 or 3 people if they could replace, and they can't, so we are basically left without a player to replace. So there's not really much we can do outside of just changing the entire format, so I don't really want to do that super short notice or anything. So yeah, basically we will be in that situation where we are just going to have less games than expected today. That's why I'm a little bit late starting and a little bit late talking, just because I've been caught up trying to sort out player stuff. But again, alas, don't really have a good solution for it, apart from continuing on in the world. Just getting on with it, which is more or less what we're going to do. So, with that said, let's get into our action today. Trap and Ryung will be our first matchup, and the winner will play against Cure. And then from there, we are going to be doing... We'll do winner versus Cure, then obviously lower bracket final, because the loser will just auto advance over the forfeit. And then we will have the grand final. So 1, 2, 3, 4 matches. Again, nothing too crazy, then kind of a short day. And I would say usually we try and do some more to kind of speed it up, but I don't know if we're really feeling it. And I guess maybe DreamHack will be starting as well, so we'll see how the day goes. We'll see how these few games end up going. So $200 today, $100 first place, $50 second place. Third place will take home $25. And that means that we are going to have the... well, that's just how today's prize money plays out. Most importantly, I would say, is top 2 get to go to the playoffs, which will be a little $700 event. So that's $700 to play for. And that will happen on Saturday, the playoffs. And then on Sunday... no, not on Sunday at all. No, I'm just making shit up. So that's on Saturday, the playoffs. And then also, if you're making it to the playoffs, you're also invited to the main event of the WardiTV Summer Championship, which is a $4,000 tournament. So that's where... well, that's where things are at. That's how things play. As we get set up early in this PvT, after all the explaining is done. And we are going to see 4 gates and Blink for Trap to get aggressive and push on into the Terran side of the map. Now, this is a Terran who did not build a Reaper, so he's going to have a very good Marine count. Marine count doesn't mean much against those Blink Stalkers unless you've got adequate bunkers. And I actually kind of really hate this. The Starport and Factory are in a really bad place to deal with 4-gate Blink, because if these Stalkers blink in the main and gain control here, you're instantly losing the tech labs on these Starport and factories, and generally they're the tech labs that become the Stimpack and Combat Shield tech labs. So that would be really bad. That's obviously a problem waiting to occur, as our first medevac of the game is going to boost straight at the front, but that's where all the Stalkers are. I think Trap read this a bit more as a Hellion opening rather than a Widowmine opening. And because of that, obviously just had the Stalkers at the front instead of, you know, in a position to deal with the Widowmine drop, which is unfortunate for Ryung, because if he'd actually just gone for a more normal mine path or mine drop path, he would have had a much better time here. It is funny because if he hadn't of... like I say, like this was the weirder path to take, trying to catch Trap off guard, but because Trap has a bit of a misread as to what is actually coming, is preparing for the Hellion drop, he kind of auto-prepares for the weirder path, and that's unfortunate for Ryung, as mentioned, because now that Widowmine drop didn't get him a chance to do much. I am very worried, because he's also just had no information at all, so Ryung has no idea that this is about to happen. There is a siege tank that is taking a pretty defensive position in the main. A Raven popped out too, so we'll have an auto turret to aid. Will that be enough? We are going to blink in. Tech lab straight away in some trouble. Stalkers are just going to prioritize that. Okay, I mean, not the best situation though, right? I mean, you lose yourself a Stalker. Yeah, it could have been a lot different, honestly, as we see your first couple of Widowmines going off, and they will do alright, but not amazing. Do we not have workers killed on? For some reason we don't have Game Heart on. Sorry, so that was 6 probes. Yeah, I don't know why Game Heart isn't on, guys. I 100% put it on, just maybe one of those bugs when we load up sometimes it doesn't quite register the mod that we selected, so that's probably the situation. So sorry for that. That'll obviously be fixed for game number 2 and onward. As hey, I gotta give credit to Ryung. It's actually turned into a pretty good defense. Obviously delayed a little bit on that stim starting because of the Stalkers getting rid of that tech lab, but otherwise didn't really lose very much here. I mean, if we go to units lost, that's structures lost, units lost, you can see again only a couple of Marines. These Stalkers didn't gain much. And of course, Trap wasn't on the fastest third base ever. Then again, it also wasn't the slowest third base ever. This wasn't, you know, a 6-minute third in Robo Bay, which is sometimes a thing when you play this 4-gate Stalker style. Instead, you're playing this a little bit faster, so it wasn't as pressure-focused, which is very good, because obviously, if it was very pressure-focused, it really didn't achieve very much, so we are going to be seeing additional Stalkers just sliding through, and they're going to start heading down to the bottom left as our Stalkers here. Just going to unload to the side of the main base. And again, with Stimpack, Combat Shield, and +1 attack all coming in, we are fast approaching, I would say. A set of upgrades which are obviously going to give Ryung a bit of potential in this game, a bit of potential to get across the map and to maybe make something happen. As you see, our Prism pushed away there as well, so it's going to get pushed on out of here. On this right side, this lone Marine is going to come through and just pick up some information. I'm a little sad that Ryung's not already across the map, I suppose, but I appreciate it's a little bit scary to move out with Stalkers on the map. He is going to get across now. Observer sees everything, so Trap is very aware. He's already pretty well prepared, honestly. The first Colossus already being out. The ideal thing is charge finishing as well, but also just a second Colossus and this upgrade just to make life a bit easier. Double drop on the right side seen by an Observer too, and this just means that Trap can now split his army adequately. What might be good for Ryung is if he was to join everything together. Because if you join everything together, at that point you can obviously make a push in one place. If these armies are still split separately, maybe you get a jump on one Colossus, and if one Colossus goes down, the entire rest of that fight then falls apart a little bit from Trap. But of course, you've got to kind of fake Trap or get Trap to split that army up still, and Trap started to join everything back up together. He realized there was no army still on this side, so he realized that was a possibility. Upon realizing that was a possibility, he says, okay, I see where this is going. We'll go from there. There's a few extra Zealots just going to be warping in. So just going to warp in, move towards the rest of the units. We do have Zealots going across the map from Trap. They are going to make their way over here and try and aim for this orbital command. Prism loads up a chunk of those Zealots as well. It's just going to be seeing our hallucination will start to fly out down to the south side. So, taking up information, pretty passive. Trap just happy to sit back and take a fourth base. Obviously, his tech is improving on the way to that and Disruptors. So he has no real reason to go out and force a fight necessarily unless he really believes that he could do very well with Colossus against a lack of Vikings, which is kind of the case. But if you take a fight right now, in a perfect world, Ryung gets a double Matrix off on Colossus, then you're only on one Colossus, then there's tank fire to contend with as well. Typically, the tools are there in theory to defend this, and the tools are here to defend this as well. A missile turret would lead into that Wood of Mine, and that would be a very dead Warp Prism, so nice to pull it away, and Trap will just keep his harassment for another time. I love this defense. It really makes you believe you can get in. And then it's like, aha, you know, it's the sort of defense which really, against a lot of players, would probably kill the Prism. Because it's, like, enough to kind of ward off sometimes, but some players will be like, no, you know what, let's go for this. That one turret's not going to stop me, and then they get hit by the Wood of Mine, right, and then they die. Obviously, Trap seemed to realize what was going on, so he did not risk it. Now, probably worthwhile bringing these Wood of Mines out, maybe this one at least, because a Prism flying in here should get double turreted down. And obviously, you know, that's 4 supply that's kind of just chilling here. Well, that's all well and good. If Trap just ignores that left side main base, well, then you don't really gain much of this. It's a nice catch from Ryung. He'll get rid of a handful of Zealots from the harassing squad. The only problem with that is Trap sees the army on the left side, and he says, cool, free movement for me out to the right side, because even if I do come up against an army, it's only going to be half of it. Of course, then, you know, you still have to have units back over here, and he does actually have 2 Colossi left behind, so being pretty safe with that, as these few Zealots do make their way in from that Prism into this mineral line. The Prism actually went down, though. I believe that Widow Mine scored the kill on it, or at least helped to bring it low. So the prism has fallen, and that will be the end of the prism for the moment. So that's actually good for Ryung still. That wasn't too much damage taken, considering the prism gets completely reset, and, well, you know, the harassment of Trap is basically, you know, going to have to start from fresh again. Just going to see a few disruptors will be hanging around. Obviously, just they're going to be key in these upcoming fights. Especially now that Ryung has ghosts available. Disruptors are one of the better ways to get rid of those ghosts, as Raven's still around too, so Ryung's got to be pretty cautious because that has a lot of potential. And used correctly, that can still shift the fight. Obviously, as the engagements become larger, the Raven will be a little bit less kind of straight up kind of effective, or straight up kind of have an effect. Influential is the word I'm looking for, but it will still potentially sway a battle that little bit. Even actually an anti-armor missile at this stage probably way more effective than anything else you could pop. He gets an anti-armor missile on the Colossi. Hard to take advantage of that. On the left side, we can break this. I mean, there's a super battery here. Oh no, he's distracted, and he does eat a pretty big disruptor shot. He minimized the damage, but it was already not looking too pretty. I was going to say, that's a position Ryung can fight into if he can dodge the disruptor once the super battery had faded, but now he's eating the disruptor shot. Even if he probably could, he's dissuaded from going for it, right? It's not something you want to commit to. Now he's going to get a surround on this army, though. Obviously, disruptors flying. The first two kind of just missed their mark. The next one, oh no, the last disruptor hit is able to go off. If that disruptor shot had not gone off, I actually think Ryung would probably be running in to kill everything right now. That one disruptor that he dove for it as well. He believed he could kill it, and it was so close. And it killed so much of the army as it was just a missed decision. As now we're going to be seeing our Prism in the main base get shot down by reinforcing Marines. So, again, the Prism was not able to stay alive very easily. Let's see, here comes Trap pushing through. Looking to take advantage of the previous fight where the Disruptor just did enough. Now you're going to have the issue of you just don't really have an answer to the Colossi. Before you had the flank set up, and you maybe just had the numbers to overwhelm. This is obviously no longer the case, as Trap should be able to, with these Colossi, to just dictate the game. And he is killing a whole bunch of units. He's going to blink the Stalkers forward to kind of protect the Colossi. He's got those two Immortals, which are going to work against the Marauders too. I just want to take us back to this fight, just to show you how close it really was, and how much trouble Trap was really in, because, you know, these first two Disruptors missed. This one hits okay. It's this one here. And if he doesn't get this connection, all of this army gets chased down and these Colossi die because there's no backup plan. Like, you get to maybe the battery, I suppose. Maybe that happens. This Disruptor shot kills 25 supply and it just removes all chase potential. And then Trap can turn, fight, and it's a completely different game. Very easy to say, oh my god, Disruptors are stupid, it just blew up everything. But Ryung knew the risk, you know, and Starcraft is a game of, you know, risk versus reward. You know, a lot of your builds are, hey, how much can I get away with here? You know, calculated risks are a big part of the game. And in that moment, Ryung said, I'm going to forego any potential splitting or minimizing of the damage to just aim to kind of, you know, kill that Disruptor. And, you know, that risk did not pay off, right? You know, he calculated the risk, he knew what the consequences might be, and he had to pay the consequences. But the reward was huge, right? It was a huge risk, because if it went wrong, which it did, he loses the game. If it goes right, he has a potential to win the game, or at least be in a very good position. So, as always in StarCraft, you know, every decision is a choice, and, you know, he could have played around that. You know, it's not like he was forced to run headfirst into the Disruptor. He just thought that was his best opportunity, and unfortunately it didn't play out like that. Bottom right. Our red Terran is Ryung, is in the top left, blue Protoss is Trap. As we get this up and running. Trap obviously leading 1-0 after that Disruptor shot to finish up the first game, more or less. Protoss has so many get out of jail free cards. Like what, though? The thing is, I mean, a lot of people like to say recall, but if you take recall away from Protoss, we actually have a worse game. Like, the game is just straight up worse if recall isn't in the game, because then Protoss just camp. They'll never move out, because guess what? Every time they move out, they can't go back home and defend the counterattacks, and that was always one of the issues with Protoss, right? That if you were to move out onto the map, you just had no way to defend your base. You couldn't move back home easily. And a lot of the time, you just die to the mobility of your opponent's units, so the best decision was to just sit back and defend always. Which didn't make for good gameplay. And recall was a bit of a band-aid solution, I'm not gonna lie, but it is a solution which allows you to get out of trouble and to go back there and to deal with that attack and to actually be active on the map in the first place then. It just gives Protoss a more attacking kind of sentiment rather than just having to be the ultimate defenders, which people complained about too. Protoss, they never leave 4 bases, they just build up an air army. Ah! Now the game isn't like that. Now it is a little bit different and it plays differently. And of course there's other things as well, but you can say this about any race. It's like, oh my god, Terran can just drop mules, lol. I killed 20 SCV, but he still got mules. I mean, that's kind of a dumb one, but in some situations, mules are just straight up better, right? Like, you know, if you go into a base trade and everyone kills each other's workers, but the CCs survive, you know, in a base trade anyway, Terran can float their buildings. That's a hell of a get out of jail free card too, right? It's almost like in an asymmetric game, we've got loads of different things that are good for each race, and that's kind of what makes the game interesting. The strengths, the weaknesses. One race being able to do one thing while the other race can do another thing in a different scenario. It's what makes the game good at the end of the day, I think. Otherwise, every matchup would just be a TvT or PvP. As we get ourselves sorted down, Trap is on his way to Blink. Trap is the kind of player who will, a lot of the time, just do the same build multiple times in a row in these cups. I know that in the past we've definitely seen him doing 4-gate Blink, like, repeatedly. This doesn't look quite as much like 4-gate Blink. That Robo was a bit later. And obviously by now extra gates would have been on the way. We're going to add a 3rd gateway. But that's then going to be the Nexus. So a bit of Blink Stalker pressure, similar idea to the last game, but very different actual commitment by the end of the day. Right, he's not going to be committed to this with that 3rd coming down almost a minute sooner than last game if he puts it down in the next few seconds. That's obviously, you know, something that can really add up here. So, 2 Widow Mines, sorry, missed this drop coming in. They grab a couple probes. 2 probes going down. The Hellions will find a probe on the 3rd base as well, though, so that is now going to be a bit more of a delayed base. Stalker's still warping in. Defensively, we've got a tank, we've got Marines and a bunker. Commander side is good for that Blink harassment because of all this space in the main. And obviously right now, Ryung doesn't seem to feel like he's under too much pressure, so he's not really positioning to defend the main base either. And to be fair, he doesn't need to. There's an observer on the way, but there's no prism or anything. But what I find just most surprising is that Trap just really didn't get the 3rd until 5 minutes still. He did he? Sorry, did he cancel the 3rd gateway? He did, so he's actually just done 2 gates. So a 2-gate and then 5-minute 3rd is very weird because usually you would just get a 4-minute 3rd base. So Trap is actually way off on his usual timings. And maybe that's because he felt he was under a bit of extra pressure with his Widow Mine drop and a couple of Hellions. Felt like he needed to focus on units defensively. Whatever it was, it's put him into a bit of a rougher spot than he would have liked to be in. So you gotta like this for Ryung. First couple minutes have not been bad for him at all. He's been able to set up well off of this. The Stalkers move over to the right as our Templar Archives is building on the natural. Nexus is going to be finishing soon. Charge is on the way. Now, a few Stalkers blinking over here, but this is where the defense was set up. So, biggest issue, you lose a depot. I don't think you can be too concerned about that as Ryung. You're about to get out of that supply block right now as 2 new depots finished. So, far from the end of the world. If the Stalkers only find a depot, I think you're fine with that. And look at what Trap wants to do. He wants to go straight to Storm. So, playing Storm already is a pretty fun way of playing. It's actually been my favorite way for PvTs to turn out lately. We've seen a lot of fun stuff with Storm, actually. We really, really have. That charge is coming through from Trap. Sorry, distracted because the doorbell's going off. Yeah, we've seen Storm really deliver a lot of fun games, a lot of fun situations, a lot of fun setups. been a pretty big fan of Storm over Colossus, and maybe most of that is just for the idea of, oh, it's something different, it's something we get to mix up a little bit. As you see these Stalkers coming through, and they are able to grab a Hellion. Still making their way around to the top side of the map. We've got tanks and Marines are going to come moving through the bottom side of the map as well. So they're going to push across and, well, again, make their charge over to the center of the map here. So away we go, onwards we fly. As Ryung gets onto a little bit of pressure. Who's at the door? I don't know. Well, it was a parcel, but Helen got it, so we could be okay. Apparently it's for me because she brought it into my room. Oh, I know what it is. I can see it now. Alright, so Bioforce from Ryung is going to come through. Zealot Stalker is going to come up. Storm available here. The Storm lands. A couple of tanks getting hit by it. Those tanks died way too quickly, didn't they? The Raven just wasn't part of this fight, and I don't know what the Raven maybe could have done. Obviously, the Raven wanted to stay back because of the high tempo. It makes sense. You don't want to get feedback. But then, obviously, not being able to actually bring this into play kind of sucks a little bit as well. Obviously, even an anti-armor missile could have gone a long way to help out right there. So, yeah, that could have been a little bit better. As you just see our Bioforces, Raven, all of this joining up together. Our Forge is coming down in the main base. I'm just going to be seeing our +1 armor on the engineering bay coming through as well. So all of this setting up as that medevac loads up 4 Widow Mines, and it will get taken, or they will get taken to the far left-hand side of the map. Ghost Academy is coming up as well, as our armory is also soon to be finished. You know, Ryung's still holding a pretty sizable army lead. He's kind of had that all along, and his last fight wasn't super pretty, but he did get a few kills himself. If you look at resources lost, it's not super bad for Ryung, who income-wise has actually been having spikes of an advantage here and there. So Widow Mine drop finds 4 kills so far. All those pros are clumped up here, but I guess Trap kind of knew about it, and any closer the cannon would have helped kill it as well, so... Oh, that Widow Mine finds damage though, and this one in the main base just got 4 kills too. Well, that was actually amazing. All of a sudden, this grew to be a lot more damage than expected. And Ryung finds himself a good couple moments. A skirmish over here. Looks like a storm landed on these mines. Problem right now is we don't have a lot of storm available. We've got, I guess, 2 available on these high tempo at the moment. Okay, he just warped in some more HTs. Yeah, 2 of them have the energy to storm. So 2 storms are eligible to join the fight right now. Prism shows up, is going to get turned away instantly. Could maybe go main base. But yeah, I mean, otherwise turned away from there and not really allowed in. Bioforces pulling back a little bit, and we do have still the medevacs up to the top side here. Waiting for their chance to make something happen as well, perhaps, as we see our bio army is once again going to move on forward, heading towards the middle of the map. I like that Ryung's been able to keep the pressure up, though. You know, he's really been able to bring the momentum this game. He's not been, you know, turned around and pushed back at all. Instead, he's been able to fight, you know, create those fights again and again. Big tech switch coming in from Trap, though. These Colossi are a bit of a momentum stopper, because if you get to 4 of them, which is probably the goal here, 2 robos, 2 at a time. If you get to 4 Colossi, that really is a, oh crap, like I need Vikings moment for the Terran. 1, maybe 2, you can engage without the Vikings, I would say. As an EMP goes down, battery falls, cannon is going to die off as well, and these Archons being picked away at. Quite a few of these probes still dropping off, as on the top side, the Bio Army still coming in. The cannon goes down, the other cannon's going to fall. There's a couple of Stalkers still being picked away at too as we dive on forward. Another storm comes in. It's just going to push that back. The other Bio Army now coming through too. Gets an Immortal. What am I going to hit? An Archon. Anti-armor missile striking the Colossus as well. It's just going to hit that a little bit as 6 probes have gone down. We're not going to blink down to the bottom side. A Marine and Marauder coming through. Another couple of units still coming in as well. I mean, Ryung has a supply lead here. Trap is going to clean up on the left side. I mean, honestly, it feels like, I mean, I guess Yeah, honestly, there's a good few Marauds. I guess everything's over here. Feels like this army should be able to do more right now. There is not a lot here, and I know some units just came from that area moving down. As Ryung sees this army should be moving. Like, this army should be heading to the third base. That or you come home and defend. What do I like? I actually feel like I would have liked this more because I feel like you're almost guaranteed to deal good damage here. And Chap's actually going to respect the potential counterattack as well. He's going to start heading back. If the moment Ryung had scanned this army had dove, I don't necessarily think you get a base kill, but I think it guarantees Trap pulling back. Whereas now, Trap pulled back anyway. And that's, I feel like, maybe a bit fortunate because it could have maybe gone a bit weird if Trap had continued on. And then you enter in a base trade, which really throws everything up in the air. But it's actually not a bad situation for Ryung. I don't feel like he needs everything thrown up in the air into a crazy situation. He actually just needs, like, you know, the game to continue playing out in somewhat of a normal fashion, you know? He's kind of in an alright position at the moment. He's kind of doing okay. So yeah, I mean, all just kind of thought, you know, just kind of thoughts because obviously none of it happened anyway. Trap didn't commit, even though Ryung didn't force him to not commit, etc., etc. Another probes going down once more. Not even sure where that is. I don't see any red on the side of the map. We drop a couple EMPs here. Storm coming through. We have another EMP available. We will cancel the 5th base as we start a fight on the right side as well. EMPs, I feel like, not really hitting their main targets. If they hit the Zealots and the Archon, they would have been able to get through that more easily, and then you can maybe jump the Colossus, whereas now you've EMP'd the Colossus only to never hit them again afterwards. We do re-engage over here, though. Another EMP or two going well, and you're going to get position on this 4th base. Trap being pushed back. A super bad reactive, as we are going to be seeing our Nexus being clawed away at, is going to go down. So the Nexus will fall. And we just have 16 SCVs going down as Zealots and DTs are in the main. So Trap on the counterattack doing some really good damage. Looks like Ryung has enough there. He's killed the 4th base, remember, so that's big. And Ryung actually has extra CCs finishing too all over the place. He's got a lot of them, so he should be able to do pretty well in terms of keeping on expanding himself. So he's definitely not in trouble in terms of taking his own bases. An army through the center here is going to move through, and it is going to be Trap looking to jump on this planetary fortress. There we go with Stalker DT. Down the right-hand side, our Bio Army moving through and just having everything still joined up together. Bio Army will go in, look to recancel that 4th base. Do you need a fight here, Ryung? No, but honestly, he's not far away from being able to. There's High Templars coming in from behind. He's going to pull SCVs to try and help, but they ended up just running through a storm. I appreciate why, because obviously you're very afraid that this army is going to overpower you, but that was maybe not quite the moment. He needs the EMPs on the High Templar. He gets one of them. There's some DTs off to this left side, which he really needs to just scan and get rid of. It's going to make life a lot easier. He still has this army here. It's not doing anything. There's no units at home from Trap. He's now warping in High Templar. Ryung, this army could have done more. It was just kind of sat there for a little while. Does it need to? Maybe not, because you've got 5 bases across the board. Okay, well, my Widow Mine goes off. We're just going to be seeing everything else still gathering up back at home. Disruptive production still coming through. Marine Marauder coming out. Vikings are on the way. And our army of Ryung is fully retreating. I mean, going into a larger collected together army, I really don't hate it for Ryung. I feel like he can win these kind of fights. I'd love to just see the Ghosts at least get out of here. Feels like they're going to be the targets if the Stalkers blink again. At least if they could turn around and EMP the Archons, you can see the Colossi kind of left to kite, but now those Colossi left to kite, but taking some serious damage. High Templar can get one storm off. Army ends up flanking on the other side, so Ryung is going to collapse in on this. His Colossi have nowhere to run to. He's going to intercept the Disruptors as well, and Ryung is going to overrun to take game 2. And we are tied up as Ryung played a beautiful game of TVP. I mean, really just pitch perfect throughout. Really hitting the mark as he needed to hit. Really just ticking the boxes he needed to tick. I mean, 1-1. What an exciting situation to end up in. Like I say, Ryung has been looking better and better lately, and absolutely delivering here so far. I wouldn't even say that Trap played a bad game, would you guys? You know, I feel like a lot of the time you see a map like this and everyone's like, well, you know, Trap wasn't playing serious, he wasn't playing his best. I feel like Trap really tried to do a whole bunch of everything. He had Zealot and DT harassment, I mean, what didn't Trap try and do in that game? He had Storm into the Colossus switch. I just really feel like across the board, we had a very, very strong showing from Ryung, and it just felt like he had really good management of the game. Yeah, I can't say that Trap, I mean, maybe he's not pulling out every single trick in the book, but it's not like he played badly. Trap played a solid game of PvT as well, and Ryung was just that little bit better. I loved all of these multi-prong fights as well, splitting up, fighting in multiple places. That was really cool. Ryung, bringing the power. And this is going to be one of these series that's going to end up on YouTube, and usually that's fine. But my goodness, I talked about this the other day. We've uploaded nothing but TVP to YouTube lately, so I'm a little bit like, no, not like this. It's not how it's meant to go, you know? Not more TVP that needs uploading. But yeah, TVP's been a great matchup the last couple of weeks. We've just had so many good matches of TVP. It's been really, really cool. CV is pulling back down to the south side of the map, as we've got Reactor coming through Command Center building up. A few different little bits and pieces getting going here, so Barracks of Ryung is going to land up in the main base as well. TVP is the new TVZ. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think TVZ is still great. It's just, we've just had a lot of TVP, right? And it has been, like, a really good matchup as of late. Like, I've really been enjoying it. I know a lot of people have been thinking this. I feel like TVP's people like to complain about it. Protoss, splash damage, Terran, mules, that sort of stuff. But, I really think it's a fascinating matchup because there's so many different ways to open and build from both sides nowadays. You know, there's so many cool 1-1-1 setups from the Terran. There's this opening of 3 racks instead. There's Reaper openings, no Reaper openings. I mean, that alone at the start of the game makes a difference as well. Matchup has just had a lot of variety as of late, and that's always good when it comes to entertainment value. Variety is generally a good thing. Doesn't matter if the one probe that Protoss sends at the start dies. Not really. I'll talk about it in a sec after these Adepts, as they do get in, so a little mistake here from Ryung. You will have these Adepts trapped, but you've already lost 2 Marines. Now going to lose another. Maybe an SCV on top of it as well. If he doesn't lose an SCV, I'm actually kind of okay with this. Okay, I actually don't mind it. Like, you know, killing the 2 Adepts, 4 Marines, it ain't bad. I don't think anyone's too upset about it. Yeah, losing the probe, usually that probe just goes home. The one time losing a probe is kind of bad is if you wanted to build a proxy with it, like a pylon or so, or set something up. And it does at least give Ryung a bit of a reassurance where it's like, oh, okay, that probe is kind of gone. You know, I don't have to worry as much about maybe an immediate proxy. Maybe that will change his mind. It's like nice to know it's not on the map anymore. Of course, there's also nothing stopping a new probe moving on the map. So it's not the end of the world. It's just nice to get it out of there. Especially at the time it died here. You know, it's one of these... you know, it's just one of these things as well where if it dies like super quickly, you maybe miss out on some of the information you'd like to get with it. But I actually don't know when exactly this one died. But typically, if you've seen the command center and you've been walled out, there's not too much else to pick up on, and then the Adepts show up. You know, the closer it dies to the Adepts showing up, the less it really matters, I suppose. It's the easiest way to summarize it. So... So yeah, a lot of it is when when you go Marine instead of Reaper, basically the timing changes of when the probe has to back away. So if you think it's a Reaper and then the Marine pops out, the Marine can kill that probe. But then you've already picked up the info that it's not a Reaper, right? And that's already good information to have. Obviously, again, you can still save the probe in those scenarios. It's just, so then it's, again, just better if it does. But it's already picked up the main information to be had at that stage of the game, So yeah. Man, isn't Starcraft such a cool game, guys? We can literally spend like a minute and a half talking about an early game probe dying when it was completely uninfluential. There's so much to this beautiful game, isn't there? Ryung, he's got stim, he's got combat, he's just kind of waiting. I mean, maybe afraid of the fact that nothing showed up on the other side. Trap ends up going, again, about a 5-minute third base, a little bit after. This time, obviously, he has this Robo up a lot sooner, so he's got this Immortal out, and I think that's just a, hey, you're playing 3 racks, and I think he somewhat figured that out. Yep, obviously with the initial scouting and stuff, so he has a good idea of what's up, so I don't mind the fact that he's just got an Immortal and just making sure he's going to be safe. Ryung's going to split these units, and I feel like that will be very interesting to see play out. Because you've got a group of Marines on this left-hand side, you've got a group of units on that right-hand side. If this can collapse and avoid the force fields, amazing. Maybe you can multi-prong into the natural as you hit the third base. There are a few options here. There's a good few options, in fact, so I'm excited to see what comes of this, as I even have Medivacs on the right side. You're showing the first units on the left, you're going to start dropping the right. He sees the Stalkers and he flew over a Zealot, so Trap very well prepared. I mean, he knows at this time of the game, obviously Medivacs can be up, right? He had a scout on the factory, reactor timing, etc., so he knows that Medivacs are likely up and a drop is a possibility. I like the idea from Ryung, just, obviously Trap very well prepared, and just seeing, you know, one of those strengths of Trap already shining through. This is something we know Trap is very good at. It's just going to be seeing now Ryung gathering everything together. But one thing we saw from Ryung in the last couple of games, I'm struggling to get my words out eloquently. One thing that we did see from Ryung the last couple of games is that he really did do a good job of, you know, not just having his army units split a lot of the time, but knowing when to bring them back together and fight in one place again. There's not much you can kill here from a distance. Usually you find like this Reaper Warlock, but I'm not seeing as many Reaper Warlocks nowadays with the lack of Reapers in the openings, and obviously no Reaper this game. And with that as well, it's just one of those things where it's like, well, if you're not going Reaper opening as much, sometimes you go Reaper and you get more scouting, sure, but why am I risking my gateway and Cybercore if, you know, a lot of the time Terran players aren't even building the Reaper they're meant to block out? So I can appreciate the wall not being that, and you saw exactly why it can be very good. Nothing died as Ryung positioned himself as though he would have killed it if it was there. Tanks sit down on this third base location and say, what's up? Let's get ourselves in position and see what we can do as we scan up to the top side. A couple of Archons are going to begin to morph on in. I'm just going to start lasering down this set of rocks over here as well. It's just kind of knocking through these. Vikings wanting to try and get on top of Colossi, but not really doing all that well right away. A couple of turrets coming down too. Ryung. Are we just going to aim to win this game off this attack? There's a Ghost Academy, so I guess we're going to build a couple Ghosts, but he hasn't done that yet. So that's weird, because you could Ghost Academy and then just all in from this, but then he didn't actually build Ghosts. Which makes me think that maybe he changed his mind, and now he's just decided, oh yeah, I can make this work. I actually love this fight to start with for Ryung, because he actually has the tanks soaking a lot of the damage. Oh, he doesn't get any of the Colossi, though, and those Archons getting away too is big. Super Battery now popping. He'll pull back. He needs to keep this tank alive, I think. He needs something to kind of hit the Colossus from afar. Another tank moving forward would actually be very good in this scenario as well. No counterattacks or anything to think about. Everything on the map is right here on the front of Trap's third base. He wants to come in from this bottom side again, which I like. It's away from the turrets a bit. It's away from that bunker. This tank is... I really just wish the tank was target firing a bit better. The tank, if it was able to hit the Colossi a little bit more consistently, might make a hell of a difference. Those Immortals are cheering through Marauders. Ryung is getting cleaned up here and pushed back. Now he's on his way to some Ghosts, but... yeah, that's... not ideal. Well, I mean, obviously coming out of this fight, you're kind of left with not a lot. Third CCS to evacuate. I feel like the problem is the first time around, Trap kept all of the tech units alive. And if, like I say, maybe the tanks target fire the Colossus a bit more and you kill one or two of those, maybe that's the difference in damage for the second time this fight happens. And maybe that would have made the difference in total as Trap does win out 2-1 over Ryung.